Okay, so last week, Pastor Rain started the just a two parts um, series on pause, ponder, and pray. So I'm going to be doing the part two, the last one today. And I think that sometimes we don't think of pause, ponder, and pray as being very relevant in today's world because we're very busy people. What do you mean pause? We got to get going. I mean ponder. I've got no time to ponder. We need to get going and going and going. And we might feel a little bit guilty and we say, well, I'll just say a quick prayer. Just trying to make it spiritual. You know what I mean? And I think that's very, very important. I think that Pastor Rain spoke about anchoring your soul to Jesus and how relevant it is in particularly, not necessarily in this day and age, but in our lives, irrespective of whatever day, whatever age, whatever season it is, it's important for us to connect in a rightful way. Now, I wonder if these two pictures kind of resonate with you when we're rushing or when we're driving. And if you're driving, you are very focused on a specific thing, and so you can drive past something that you didn't notice. We will miss something. We won't see some things. You could be even walking, and because you're familiar with your surrounding areas, you walk very fast because you want to get to where you want to get to, and very often you don't, in fact, maybe see some people that you would have recognized, but you just kind of walk past. So life becomes like a blur. I wonder if you've heard of that question, that statement. Life becomes a blur because it's so fast that you actually miss a lot of things that you shouldn't be missing. So I wonder if you were if you had a situation or experience where you walk into a town or a city that you're not familiar with. Or maybe you walked into or you traveled into a suburb that you were not familiar, or maybe even in a different country. Have you kind of noticed the way you behave? When you go into an unfamiliar place, what's the thing that you notice? You actually slow down, you actually observe, you actually listen. Your whole demeanor changes because it's unfamiliar. And so you take notice and you pay attention to a lot of things, and that's what happens. Now, the question I want to ask today is, are we pausing out of choice, or are we pausing out of duress or pressure? Now, let me deal with the second one. How often we've all experienced that we have pause out of pressure and out of duress. In other words, we are forced to. Because you know that when we were under lockdown, you had nothing but to pause. And some of you kind of felt as if you were running on the spot. Because you were running such fast lives that suddenly it's not by choice. It's not even the fact that your boss gave you a day off. The government said you're not allowed to get out of the house. All right? All of a sudden you were enforced, and you were forced to pause. You were compelled. But as fellow South Africans, we are used to that because now we have load shedding. And so load shedding forces you to pause, whether you like it or not. I know some of you are trying to think, well, let's put more energy. Let's kind of buy alternative resource and energy so that we can continue. But we're not accustomed to pausing. And so why do we say you pause by choice? Sometimes we pause by choice. Did you know that? When you pause by choice? When you have certain experiences. For example, maybe you were successful in something. Maybe you succeeded or accomplished something. Guess what happens? You actually pause your life because you want to enjoy the experience. You want to talk about it some more. You want to sit around that atmosphere of victory, isn't it? So you are choosing to pause. However, on the other side, you may have failed something, and you do pause. You maybe lock yourself in a room. You pause. You cut yourself off from other people so that they don't remind you of what you failed, but you kind of like, you're in that zone where you pause. You want to get away. So there are instances where we do choose to pause. Now, I want us to look at the scripture and kind of understand the heartbeat of God. It's never amazed me to continue to come to that same book, Psalm 23, that uncovers so much that I've a lot to learn from it. So today we're going to look at verse 2 of Psalm 23. It says, He, meaning God, He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still and quiet waters. I like this version where you see He makes me lie down. You know, sometimes things have to happen that makes us to lie down. Okay? Because it's not only just to stand still. No, we have to be made to lie down so we don't go anywhere. So we can get focused and get our attention on something. So sometimes God allows us, He makes us lie down on green pastures. Because I want you to pay attention, He's saying. And then in the next part of it, it says there, He leads me beside the still and quiet waters. We don't get led easily because we want to rush. We want where the excitement and the lights and all that thing happens. But no, He leads us. It's so bad that He has to lead us. We don't follow willingly. He has to lead us. He has to lead us into still waters. He has to lead us in quiet waters so that He gets us into a place and in a space that we can be attentive to what He has in store for us. So I think the scripture gives us an inkling of God's preparation. He hasn't done anything yet, okay? All He's done is He makes us to lie down. The next thing He said, He leads us into still and quiet water. He hasn't done anything yet. And we battle with those two things. The first thing that I want us to look at in pause, ponder, and pray is to look at the word pause. Because the word pause speaks about paying attention. Paying attention. Now, if you are pausing by choice, you are choosing intentionally to pause. Out of choice. Okay? It's to stop or to sit or to stand. I haven't put that on, but I suppose you could add on to lie down. I don't know. Maybe sometimes we lie down, we just fall asleep. We just kind of miss the benefits of what we're supposed to be pausing for. But maybe you need to sleep. But sometimes we need to stop. And it's not something so deep. You know, we sometimes want to get some depth. No, it's just to stop. Okay, we all know how to stop. We all know what it means to sit or we kind of stand still. Okay, as basic as that. Because our lives are so busy that if we say stop, sit, or stand, we think that there's something behind it. No, it just really means that. Stop, or sit, or stand. All right? There's nothing too difficult about that. The next thing, when we do that, when we pause, we find ourselves that we have to listen. How many of you that during the lockdown, you suddenly hear there's such thing as the birds singing or the rustling of the trees? All of a sudden, you're aware of that. Okay? But because we didn't pause before, we didn't hear anything. So when we pause, it forces our senses to gravitate to the senses that we are not accustomed to sometimes, is to listen. In other words, when we listen, we're supposed to be stop talking. Okay? We prefer to talk than listen. But I want to suggest to you, let's learn to listen when we are pausing. The next thing is feel. You see, when you stop and pause and you're listening, you do feel. You do sense. One of the biggest lessons for me personally during that period of lockdown was that I asked God, thinking that He's going to give me another activity that I could embark on and learn from. To my surprise, and I've shared this before, to my surprise, God inspired me or encouraged me and pushed me to get connected with my emotions. I thought that was weird. Because emotions, to me, it's not action. All right? And I learned a lot of things that I missed. I learned a lot of things that I didn't understand. And I'm still learning. I'm still trying to understand. I'm not anywhere near having learned all that. But because I had to pause, I realized that I didn't deal with my feelings well. I didn't connect with my emotions well. But because I paused, it forced me to deal with that part of my life. The next thing is that not only do you stop, not only you listen, you feel, but pause also means it causes you to look, causes you to observe. Because you're not going anywhere. You're in the same place. If anything, at least don't waste it. Okay? Just look around, observe. Sometimes we're so busy, we want to get from one action to the next activity. And then when we're not even finished with one activity, we kind of like planning for the next activity. I learned a long time ago from one of the leaders, and I'm not sure who said it or who wrote it, and he was basically saying, even as a leader, learn to walk slowly through the crowds. Because sometimes we get so busy, we want to get into the action, and if we miss the crowds, it's better. But no, let's learn to walk slowly through the crowds. Because you see, when you walk slowly, you begin to look, you begin to observe, you begin to listen, which you would miss if you want to walk quickly. All right? Now, the fourth one is the one that I think a lot of us find it difficult. Solitude. Solitude. You see, especially those whose personality likes to be with people, you would find that a little bit difficult. Because you always want to have another body next to you, another body that you can talk to, another body to listen to, another body to be able to do stuff with, to laugh with, to cry with, to do stuff with. Okay? We're used to that. If you have that kind of personality, that's all right. Continue. But make space for solitude. Because what happens is that when you're in solitude for that space, whatever amount of time, even if it's for an hour, I know for sometimes some people, 1 hour is a long time if you're not used to solitude. Then try half an hour, okay? Why do I say that? Because it is in that solitude that all those normal distractions or attractions, whatever you want to look at it, they are moved. And all you have is you. Now you've got to deal with you. You've got to be comfortable with you, and you've got to be comfortable with feeling you, and you've got to be comfortable with asking some stuff about you. We'll get to that in a moment. So, when we pause, we choose to pay attention by choice. Remember, this is pausing by choice. All right? So you choose to stop, you choose to listen, you choose to feel, you choose to observe, you choose solitude. So, now that we've got to this part, I want to bring in another scripture, which is an important one. Because in Psalm 46, verse 10, I'm just going to take that portion to highlight it. And the Amplified Version says, be still and know, recognize and understand that I am God. Now, I know in some interpretations that this was said to the enemies of God's people. Be still and know that I am God. But if you're a Christ follower, you can embrace that even more with greater understanding. It doesn't mean that we don't have to embrace that. All of a sudden, we can be still. All of a sudden, we can pause and get our senses and pay attention by choice and get to acknowledge God and get to recognize Him, because when God is in His place, we have a greater understanding of where we should be, where we are. Just earlier on we were singing that second song, All I Want is to Live in His Love, and I think all those words resonate of a heart that suddenly has stopped and paid attention and give God the space to speak to our hearts. And that is important for us to understand. So, what does the word be still? I was kind of looking at different versions of this, of various versions of the Bible relating to this scripture. And I thought it's quite interesting, because the word be still, some versions will say, stop fighting. Some are saying, stand silent. Pay attention. Be still. Stop striving. Be quiet. Calm down. Now, when you put all that into all the different meanings and synonyms, and you say, and know that I'm God, all of a sudden, you put God where He's supposed to be. You begin to acknowledge and recognize where God is. So we talked about pause. Let's look at ponder. Now, ponder is not quite the same thing as wonder. When you're pondering, and I tell you why not the same thing as wondering. Wondering is like going nowhere slowly. You've seen that program, Going Slowly. You don't know where you're going, but you're going somewhere, but you don't know where. But you're just going slowly. Sometimes in life we do that. We don't know, we're not going anywhere, but we're just going slowly. And you're just wondering. Now, this is not some kind of conspiracy theory. I wonder. It's always out there. Or sometimes we make it personal, I wonder, they're looking at me skiff. You know what I mean by skiff? If you don't know, look in the dictionary. They're looking at me skiff. I wonder what they're thinking about me. I'm wondering, they're whispering. I wonder what they're talking about me. I wonder. This is not the part that I want you to get involved in, okay? Don't lick your lips and say, okay, conspiracy. What are they doing to me? What are they planning against me? That's conspiracy wondering, all right? I'm talking about choosing to ponder. Okay, what do I mean by choosing to ponder? Okay, let me deal with this one. Asking questions about yourself. One of the first one I want to suggest to you is ask the question, why am I thinking these thoughts? Now, I came across something that really helped me think about this. And maybe this is something that we can think about. Think about what you're thinking about. Now, I did that on purpose. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. Okay? Think about what you're thinking about. I thought that was quite a good way of digging deep into your thinking. Think about what you're thinking about. Because if you think about what you're thinking about, then what you're really doing is that, why am I thinking these thoughts? This is very powerful when you're pondering. You're asking questions that's relating to yourself. It's very important to ask those questions. Here's why I'll say this. You might say, well, how do I think about what I'm thinking about? I got a clue for you. Just evaluate and listen to what you are verbalizing all the time. What is your speak? You may not be speaking out loud like I'm speaking to you. How many of you, and don't deny it, how many of you realize that you speak to yourself? Yes, Everyone speaks to themselves. I don't care if you didn't raise your hand, you do speak to yourself. You just didn't realize it. Sometimes the sound doesn't come out of your mouth, but your mouth is moving. Sometimes your whole face is talking, even though your lips are not moving. You're in that zone that you're speaking to yourself. What are you saying? You see, what you're saying is what you're thinking. Think about what you're thinking about. Evaluate why are you thinking those thoughts? You see, when you think about what you're thinking about, you begin to realize what's on the inside, what's happening on the inside. Here's one thing I want to say to you. Own your thoughts. Take ownership of your thoughts. They are yours. Don't get so spiritual and say, God gave me those thoughts. Cut that out. Don't put that label on God. That's not Him. Own your thoughts. Own your thoughts. That's why God gave you a brain. You own your thoughts. Take ownership of your thoughts. If you take ownership of your thoughts, you begin to ask yourself, what is this doing here? Why am I saying this? It's like a car. You know, if you have a rented car or someone just gave you use of a car, you don't worry about the condition of the car. Am I right? You rent a car. How many of you go and polish your rental car? You don't. You don't care if it's dirty. You rented it. When you finish, you give it back. If there's something wrong with the car, they're going to fix it. You see, because you don't have ownership of the car. But hang on, when you own the car, when you paid for it, okay, you saved up for it and you paid for it, guess what? You take ownership of the car, any little different sound, you want to find out why. Why is it making that noise? Why is it not that smooth? Why is there a dent? Why is there a scratch? What are you saying? You are saying that I am taking ownership. Now, when you're taking ownership of your thoughts, then you should be asking yourself, why am I thinking like that? Why? Where is it coming from? Where is it coming from? And don't go and blame the devil so easily. Take ownership of it. You see, when you blame the devil, the devil gave me that thought. He gave it to you, but you took ownership of it. You took it. Okay? You put it in your pocket. You lived it. You speak it. That's yours. It's like food. Oh, I didn't make the food, but you ate it. Come on. Take ownership. If you don't like that food, but you ate it, that's your fault. That's your fault. Take ownership of those thoughts. Ask yourself, what did I miss here? I'm thinking about this. What did I miss? What am I missing? Because sometimes our thoughts have gaps. And when your thoughts have gaps, you've missed something. And when you miss something, there's a different conclusion. There's a different conclusion. It's like that little comic says, the wife told the husband, go and take out the garbage. And he heard, go and get a rest on a couch. Wasn't listening properly. Okay? Take ownership of it. Don't say, well, she told me. No. She said something, but you didn't hear everything. It's your fault. It's your fault. Okay, enough of that. Number 2, why am I reacting and responding like this? You see, we should be asking ourselves this question when we're pondering. And you would only do that when you've paused. Why am I reacting like this? Why am I responding like this? It's ownership of your thoughts. You see, why you are reacting like this, why are responding like this, is a default setting. You know what's a default setting? You don't think, it just happens. Because when it just happens and you didn't actually have a process, it means that it's your default setting. In other words, it just goes. So, here's the thing. If you are watching how you react and responding the way you respond. Maybe you should ask yourself some of these questions, and this is not the only one, but why am I complaining? Have you kind of listened to yourself? If someone had to record or videoed you for 24 hours and you played it back, you would be shocked at who you are. Maybe you're just complaining, and then someone says, "Why are you complaining?" I'm not complaining. You know why you say that? Because that's not what you're looking at. But meanwhile, all this thing is coming out. You are whining. Whining. You are getting upset. You're getting angry. And someone said, what's wrong with you today? You are like very angry. No, I'm not. With that calmer voice. Can you see that the reason why I say because we didn't see the wood for the trees. You get it? But by asking yourself, why am I reacting like this? Why I am so impatient? Why am I upset? There's a reason why we're responding the way we're responding. Maybe the question is, what is paining me? What is unbalancing the way I am responding to things? You see, this is a stage where when we talk about pondering, it's only just it's me about me that I'm evaluating me. See, when we do that and we suddenly realize, wow, this is going through my mind, this is coming out of my lips. It's got to be coming from somewhere, it's coming from inside. And suddenly, there's a revelation. Maybe you begin to realize, oh, there's a lot of baggage here. I need to let go of that baggage. Whoa, I need to pull down those walls that I've been building all the time. Wow, I suddenly saw the hindrances in my life. I needed to remove them. You see, that's what happens when you ponder. When you pause and you ponder, you discover those things. Then the third thing that I just want to suggest to you, what do I really believe? You see, you'll ask this question when you've paused and you're in that space of pondering. What do I really believe? You might say, well, come on, Pastor. I mean, we're all Christ followers, We're all worshippers, That's not what I'm talking about. Those are just facts. I'm saying, what do you really believe in the way that is happening within you? You see, questions that may be, why am I committing to this? Why? And what am I committing to this? Have you ever asked yourself this question? I know this is a funny one. Have you ever asked yourself, why are you committing to come to church? Come on. Have you ever asked yourself that question? Ask yourself this question. What am I chasing? Why am I chasing this or chasing that? Have you asked yourself that question? You say, I'm so busy. I'm doing this, and it's all about me, and no one thinking about me. The question is that, why are you chasing this? Why are you doing this? You see, sometimes the underlying reason is that it could be very different from what you think it is. Some of you, they're not you, okay? You guys, they're not you. But I know that there were some people many years ago in the same church, and they were quite different. They came to church to look for a wife. So to look for a wife, they need a godly woman. Never mind who he is, but he wants a godly woman because he thinks that he'll be safe. He'll be safe. And so that's the reason why they came. And when they look around, there are some maybes, and if there's no maybes, they're not here anymore. Okay? They're not you. I mean, you guys are, what can I say? But there are. Vice versa. I know for a fact. Okay, I just hit at the guys, okay? But I know for a fact, this is a personal person I do know, that there was a woman that went to a church group to actually look for a husband, and she hooked him. Look, the bottom line is that they're still together. So what am I saying? I say there comes a point in time when you say, why I am doing this. I'm going to test you guys. A lot of you are on the vision team. Can I ask you, why? Why are you on a vision team? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Not me, I'm just suggesting. Looking yourself in the mirror and say, why must I get up early in the morning, get ready and be here on time and to do what I do every single week or whenever I'm on duty? Have you ever asked yourself that question? You can answer that. I don't know what the answer is. You see, sometimes we need to ask ourselves this question. Is it about my core belief? Is it what I value? This is what I believe. This is what I stand for. This is my foundation. And this is who I am. Or is it about, this is my personal agenda and my personal lifestyle. This is my style. This is my agenda. I hold on to it. It's got to be. And you say, no, this is what I believe. No, this is a belief about your agenda. This is not about your core beliefs. You just kind of we've just kind of muddied it. So we're going to ask ourselves that question. Sometimes we can be very critical and we have our own opinion, but that's what it is. It's your opinion. It's opinion about what's before you. But is it about your core beliefs or is it just about your style? Hey? So, let's move on. Now we've had pause, paying attention by choice. Now we have pondering, asking questions about myself. Now, if we don't do anything after that, we've just wasted the whole exercise. It's like you're watching a movie, and right at the most exciting moment, you paused, and you never watch that movie again. Isn't that doesn't make sense? So, we pause, we ponder, and now we're going to engage in prayer. Now, I didn't say pray because we just kind of want to make it holy. You know, when you have a message in the church, you must put the word pray just to make it holy. That's not what it is. We're not trying to be politically correct. You know, sometimes when people say, okay, well, we're going to pray, I'm thinking, is that a reaction and response? Or is it just kind of like, I kind of just got to go through the motion just to make it nice, you know? We've done this, and now let's just pray. Just kind of like, put some sprinkles and make it bling bling. Spiritually bling bling. No, we're serious. We're serious about pausing. We're serious about ponder, and now we're going to be praying. But how are we praying? What does that prayer look like? Praying in this instance is that we're going to engage in. Praying is when you're going to answer the question, what moves you to pray? Is it something that moves you to pray, or are you just praying as if you're putting a full stop after a sentence, you know, because it's grammatically correct, you put a full stop at a sentence? Or are you praying because you want to engage in? Are you praying because you want to engage with God? I want to suggest a couple of things that could help you on the prayer side, okay? They're not all of them. You don't have to choose any of them. Or it can only be maybe one thing. It could be a combination of things. But this is about engaging in your prayer. After you pause, after you ponder by choice, now you're going to be choosing to engage in prayer. The last part. The first one I put there is confession. You see, when you pause and you ponder, God will speak to your heart. Maybe there will be a time where you need to confess. because there's revelation. Maybe it's time then you say, well, I see the light now. I've let go of that baggage. I've pulled down those walls. I've removed those hindrances. I come before you, confession. Again, remember that song? I surrender. Maybe it's at this time that you need, and you realize that you need fresh revelation. You don't know what it is, but you've uncovered all these things in your life, the questions that you've been asking, and you've come to that point you need revelation. This is a good time when you engage with God. You lean into God and say, God, I need fresh revelation. There's so many gaps. There's so many question marks. I want fresh revelation. Number 3. Maybe you've come to a point in time that, you know what, you've been making all the wrong choices in life. Now you need to come before God and say, God, I choose some healthy choices. Just help me along this way. Show me what are the healthy choices that I make. Maybe some priorities that we need to put into place. Maybe there are some things in our lifestyle that we need to let go of. They may not be evil, they may not be sinful, but they're not good for me right now. The fourth one I call new. Maybe you're at that point that after pausing and after pondering, you don't have hope in your life. You are just going through the motions without hope, whatever's happening around you. Maybe you need to engage with God in prayer and say, God, I need new hope. I need new hope. I'm living a life without hope. Maybe you need to engage with God for a new heart. Maybe you discover that you've been living with like a person with a stony and rocky heart. Now you need to come before God and say, turn my heart of stone into a heart of flesh. But you may not have to realize that if you didn't stop to pause and if you didn't go through pondering. Maybe you need a new pathway because the pathway that you're walking is not leading you to where God wants you to be. Maybe you need a new challenge because everything is flat line in your life. Maybe you need a new rhythms of discipline and practices because right now there's zilch rhythms of disciplines and practices. So now you need to find out and say, God, I engage with you now. I need you to show me the new rhythms and disciplines of practices and things I need to do in my life. You see, this is a time when you take the meaningful pause and a meaningful pondering when you were asking questions, and you kind of get this whole scenario of your own life. And you can't leave it there. You could embrace all of that and you can say, God, let's do this. I want to leave you with this prayer. In Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 and 30, Jesus says, come to me, all you are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. If we stop there and don't go further, what do you think is going on in your mind? Jesus said, come to me, all you are weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest. Oh, Jesus is asking me to chill. Where's this heavenly resort that I'm going to? This heavenly food that I'm going to indulge in? Where's this heavenly bed that I'm going to rest in? And then you see the next line and you get shocked. Because Jesus says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Wow. It's not about a resort. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's not about a restful bed. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's not about indulging in good food. Nothing wrong with that. But he says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart. You see, here's the thing. When God is wanting to deal with our burdens, God wants to deal with our weariness. And the way he does it is that he wants us to take his yoke upon us. And he says, learn from me. In some versions it'll say, let me teach you. You see, sometimes we say, okay, I'll take your yoke grudgingly. Learn from me. No, I know it all. I don't need your teaching. You know, it's like, when you get an appliance, you don't read instructions. I know it. As if you're the manufacturer. God is saying, no, I'm going to put my yoke on you. Now, learn of me, because that yoke is going to teach you something. It's going to help you to rest. It's going to help you not to be burdened. Then he goes on to say, for I am gentle and humble in heart. Hey, I'm going to teach you with gentleness and humbleness in heart. And so you will find rest for your souls. And then it ends off. It ends off by saying, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. But I thought we were going to have a rest. Now you tell me I must still have a yoke, I must still have a burden. What rest is this? You see, we don't understand when you put on the yoke of God and you're going to lift His burden, you are in a sweet balance with Him. Now, those of you who don't know about motor vehicles, for those who know vehicles, you will understand this. Now, in a motor vehicle, you have timing and you have the balance between air and petrol. Am I right, guys? Girls, you guys know your vehicles. If you don't have the right measure of air and petrol, your car doesn't run smoothly. You'll stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. So you need someone who knows a vehicle to have the right measure of air and petrol, and it runs smoothly. Likewise, in our lives, you got to have the yoke and you got to have the burden. There's an equal tension, and then it runs smoothly. Now, when it runs smoothly, you will find rest for your soul. Okay, we're going to do a little exercise here. Okay.